Hello, YouTube. We're talking week one of college football. We're reacting. We're doing all this. LSU was overrated. Florida State's really good. Like, subscribe, enjoy. Anything else?
We give our
Comment,
official top tens.
All right.
comment,
Comment.
comment Colorado's record at the end of the year.
Yes, please. Thank you. Goodbye.
PSA, which I've already given off air, but on air as well. It is a holiday. So I have a full apartment, including a 6-month-old who just repeats dad over and over and over. So if you hear that on this podcast, I do apologize.
All right.
I've got maintenance men, my boyfriend, and my baby all in this vicinity right now. So we're making it. I'm like the Walker household.
What, the maintenance men live with you now?
Well, no, we have a leak.
Okay. All right.
I just want the PSA out there. It's a little chaotic around here, and I feel like you in quarantine, but it's not quarantine. I feel like there's going to be like, you know how like in quarantine there were just kids running around all the time.
I don't remember that. I am the height of professionalism at all times, and I certainly don't think there's a possibility today that my kids will run in from the lake as they're out on the boat right now, working. But they're going to run in and scream and yell and make me mad at them.
Probably not. Of course not. Of course not. Although I'm very jealous.
Okay.
Of the lake.
Yeah, well, it's nice. And I hear them. They must be getting close. Okay. Hi, welcome to Unnecessary Roughness, Barstool's college football podcast, brought to you by the good folks at Casey's Friends. Hello, Casey.
Hello, Brandon. It is brought to you by High Noon Hard Seltzer. Today is Labor Day. So if you are out there celebrating, you're listening to this podcast, whatever day you're listening, hopefully you are grabbing a High Noon. Jack has the High Noon pool pack right now, which is limited edition, which means it is almost done because now we're moving on to the fall. The pool pack is maybe available other places. Game day pack is coming. So it is official end of summer, regardless of how you feel about summer and fall. High Noon is always available. Go get I saw somebody tweeted at us today about that their movie theater. They have the Peach Tall Boys. Fantastic move by that movie theater. Go to Drizly, liquor stores, convenience stores, highnoonsunsets.com. Our friends, we're hitting the road going to Tuscaloosa this week, and I'm sure I will be enjoying some lovely High Noons. All right, Brandon, you can sit back down now.
Movie theaters serve that stuff now? I mean, anything like that?
Yeah, I saw somebody tweeted, I don't know where it was from, obviously, but they tweeted like a picture of the High Noon Peach Tall Boys. And it was like, wow, like that's pretty smart, because the worst thing about when you get drinks at movies, whether you're drinking non-alcoholic or alcoholic, is having to go to the bathroom, but then also having to go get refills. And if you have a Peach High Noon, that's a tall boy, you just close that bad boy and just pace yourself so you don't ever have to get up.
I'll be taking the spotlight here early.
Oh, shocker.
So we have one game left in the college football opening weekend. It is Duke and Clemson. And frankly, our producer was fired last week, so we're not really in a position to wait until midnight tonight and record. We have a nice, it looks like a guy named Mike helping us out. Thank you, Mike, for helping us out.
Mike is great.
Mike is great. Just the best Mike I've ever met. Anyway, this really has nothing to do with that. So we're not talking about Duke or Clemson today. We'll talk about it as a preview a little bit, but we're not really we don't have any, we can record two different reactions. Oh my God, Clemson's incredible, or wow, Duke, man, look out. There you go. That's it. But Jack, I've heard you say this about yourself before at this company, but I don't think there's a guy who embodies this more than me at this company. They absolutely scream my failures and scream my misses, and they whisper my successes. They don't ever talk about my successes. The other day, every Barstool account attached to Dave Portnoy's penis was tweeting about Brandon Walker in Colorado. Oh my God, Brandon Walker in Colorado, even though all I said was I think they'll succeed in year 2, not year 1. But no Barstool account outside of Jack and Unnecessary Roughness last night mentioned the fact that all year long I told you LSU was going to be overrated. All year long I told you LSU had an inconsistent quarterback. All year long I said Florida State's going to beat LSU, and nothing, not even a whisper out of a Barstool account. So fuck Barstool, fuck you guys. I'm right. I'm the king of college football. Give me my flowers, Casey.
I have to laugh. But that's the nature of social media as it is. I mean, even just looking at people's reactions from the college football show, like nobody wanted to talk about the fact that all of us except for Big Ev took I don't know if Dan took LSU or not. Dan did take LSU, but me, you, and Dave took Florida State. Everybody wanted to jump on every wrong thing. I will say this podcast as a whole has been very high on Florida State for a while. And I know Katie was first on them a while ago. You've been high on them. I've been high on them. I have them in the college football playoff. Like that game, the whole time I'm sitting there, like, I hope Brandon is digging up these old clips, because you are 100% right. Nobody got dunked on more on Twitter than you did with the Colorado take, which you have to anticipate.
No, I don't have to anticipate. I think it's fucking stupid. My Colorado take was soft as hell. Like I never at any point said, "Oh, Colorado's not going to be this. Colorado's not going to be this." I said there might be an adjustment period for Deion Sanders, and year 2 Colorado's going to be great. I don't know if they're going to be great year 1. They wouldn't beat TCU, but it's not like I was saying Deion's not going to work or Colorado sucks. These morons come out of nowhere, led by, of course, the chief moron, Dave, leading everybody, getting them up. This motherfucker was asleep at 8 o'clock. He doesn't watch college football. Anyway, LSU, Florida State, Sunday night, for a half, it was very close. It was, I think 17-14 at the half, I believe.
It was.
Florida State just beat them to sleep in the second half. Jack, very impressive for Florida State or very unimpressive for LSU?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, from the perspective of, did somebody win this game or did somebody lose this game? I think the overall story, and I tweeted this out, was LSU's disappointment, specifically in the second half, is quite concerning. I was looking at that team as if it looked like they didn't really even care. Brian Kelly, the coaching staff, did not adjust. Yeah, I was really, really disappointed in LSU. Florida State looks like they're for real, and we'll get to see them against Clemson later this month, or maybe it's like the first week of October.
No, it's this month. It's this month.
Yeah, so we'll get they'll have another test pretty soon. And this isn't to take away from Florida State, but man, and Brandon, yes, I did quote tweet the unnecessary roughness, said good call at BFW. But man, I was really, really, really disappointed in LSU in the second half. And I think that goes back to culture and coaching, because I don't think the talent is that much different.
Did you hear Brian Kelly's quote after the game about how he said that we thought we were Georgia? Did you see that?
Well, he said, I don't think we're the team that we thought we were.
He said the quote was something like, we thought we were somebody else. We thought we were like Georgia. And he said, I don't know what we thought we were, but we were mistaken.
People told him they were. They ranked them number 5. Again, there's 2 elements here. LSU never should have been number 5. Last year, if you look at that team, to rank them number 5, you could only look at the Alabama game. Oh, my God, they beat Alabama, so they're really good. Man, they sucked against Auburn. They sucked against Arkansas. They sucked against A&M. Like, they were very inconsistent last year, and they were not at that top level very often. Tennessee beat the hell out of them last year. Like, they accessed that top level of their talent one time last season, and that was maybe twice, the second half against Ole Miss and against Alabama. And coming into this year, like, the quarterback is way too inconsistent. He looks like $1 million quarterback, but then he'll go like a quarter without making a play at all. But mainly, if I'm a LSU fan, I'm concerned because this is 2 seasons in a row Brian Kelly has showed up to week 1 not ready to go. The team's not ready to go. Last year, they lost to Florida State. Florida State wasn't quite as good, but Florida State made the plays. That was a closer game, but like Keyshawn Boutte was checked out. Like there's all these things. The LSU's not showing up. The season's ready to go. And now this year, you don't have a home game to boost you against Alabama later. You got to go on the road to Alabama. So if you think LSU is going to bounce back from this and be a national title contender, you're wrong. They're not.
They're not.
14.
Yeah, they're not. And the bigger thing too, about even last year, the most dangerous thing for LSU was the fact that they won the SEC West last year. But it's like, on paper, in a vacuum, great, you won one of the hardest divisions in college football. But what we know is that the SEC West was down last year, massively down. And so to win that division, to then go and play in the SEC championship normally is a reason to rank a team higher. But the way that they even won the West, and like you mentioned, losing to A&M the way that they did, so it was almost like it worked against them, because that was the reason that they are ranked so high. It's because they won that division. Had they not made it to Atlanta, we wouldn't be talking about LSU being number 5 in the country. But we are, because they won a shitty division last year. We don't know what the West is going to look like this year, but we all anticipate it being a little bit better. But the West,
I mean, I don't think LSU is finished at all. Like, I think that
I don't think they're finished, but they shouldn't have been 5. And the reason they're 5,
I'll do it. I'll say it. LSU's finished. I'll tell you what's going to happen. when you get in a game like that with Florida State and Florida State's taking it to your forehead and you just lay down and take it, that ain't a team that's bouncing back out of this. Now they're gonna win a game against nobody next week. They're gonna come start. Well, they're gonna beat us, but I don't think they're gonna beat Ole Miss at Ole Miss. I don't think they're gonna beat Alabama at Alabama. That's 3 losses right there. A team that already showed they'll quit in the opener. When they get 3 losses, they're gonna lay down again. And I don't see it with them. I think they also have a quarterback breathing down the neck of the starting quarterback. Eventually, they're gonna change to Nussmeier. But I think we're making a mistake. I'm making a mistake because I'm leading the charge here. Last night was probably more about Florida State than it was LSU. That's a good-ass team, man. That is a good-ass team.
But, Jack, why do you not think
that they're missing a little bit of explosive playmaking ability on the outside last year? They had Johnny Wilson. They needed a little bit of playmaking ability. They went and got Keon Coleman from Michigan State, 3 touchdowns. Running backs are good. The quarterback is unflappable, and he's great. They got maybe the best defensive player in the country. This team is loaded.
They are. Before we get to Florida State, because I do obviously want to give them more credit because they deserve it. But Jack, why do you think? I mean, when I say LSU, I don't think they're finished. Like, I don't think they're going to lose. I don't think they're going under 500. But I'm curious why you don't think that. Because I mean, even if they would have lost that game last night, that's different than having 31 unanswered points in the second half. I mean, that's disgusting.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of ways you can look at it from a very negative point of view. This is the same team that looked disgusting last year, and if against the same opponent, and I think Florida State's better this year, and so is LSU. But we looked at that game last year and said, "Oh, this team stinks," and then they go out. If you told us after that game that team's going to beat Alabama, I mean, you would have said, "What are you talking about?" Also, when you look at this team overall in that game, there's a few things that could go a different way. Yes, there's also the penalties that were probably people were mad at the penalties. I don't think those penalties were that bad. Those were blatantly things that Florida State players did that they shouldn't have done. It is against the rules to hit late. It's against the rules to hit guys that are outside of the play. It's not 2010 anymore. Football has changed. And if you don't want to adjust, you're going to get penalties thrown against you. And then on top of it, that could have been 31-14 at half. And that's a completely different game. Jaden Daniels throws a pass. Wide receiver falls down. Interception. You know, I didn't like how they responded, but I think we could look back on this game and say they had a really bad one. They looked deflated. Okay, come back, and they're right at the top of the SEC West. That being said, they don't have Alabama at home this year.
Yeah, and they don't, and like Arkansas is better than they were. Texas A&M is better than they were. Like the entire West is better than they were. They barely beat Auburn last year. They barely beat A&M, or they didn't beat A&M last year. So I think the road is going to be harder. When it comes to Florida State, though, Florida State Clemson will play 2 games this year. And I think whoever survives that last one's going to be in the playoff. Like they're going to play in a couple of weeks. Somebody's going to have the upper hand, and then they'll play again at the end of the year because they'll be 1-2 in the ACC. And that's I think I can't say we've locked in a playoff spot, but I feel pretty confident that Florida State Clemson, the winner of that's going to the playoff at the end of the season.
Yeah, I had Florida State in my playoff going into this week. Of course, you know, in the first half of that game, and I mean, it is week 1, so you have to kind of give some grace for every team. I mean, obviously, you want to see your team hit the ground running without any mistakes. And Jordan Travis, you know, he made a couple of bad decisions. That interception in the first half was not good. There was some sloppy, like at one point, you know, he looked like he was going to get sacked and he just threw the ball. Luckily it didn't get intercepted for the second time, but they figured it out by halftime. I mean, there's no doubt that team in the second half looked unbelievable. And all the players that you mentioned earlier, Brandon, too. I mean, Keon Coleman is a prime example of being at a different school could completely change a guy's trajectory underneath a different coach. Now, I don't know what the rest of the season is going to look like, but we have to react to what we saw last night. And what we saw was a Florida State offense with a quarterback who's probably a top 5 quarterback in the country as anticipated. And after a sloppy first half, they looked like the team that we thought they would in the second half.
I do want to give Keon Coleman credit. He was really good at Michigan State.
But I think because Michigan State wasn't any good, people weren't talking about him the way that, I mean, yes, like maybe I'm not giving him enough credit because I'm so down on Michigan State. But like now with a quarterback, like that kid's going to be unstoppable all year.
Have any of y'all gone back and rewatched any games from week 1?
I have not.
Like this week 1?
No, week 1 from 1963. Yeah, this week 1, asshole. I went back and watched Colorado TCU again just to check it.
And It looked as good as you thought it did.
It looked a hell of a lot better than Colorado. I thought Colorado would look. It looked really good. Shedeur Sanders threw for 510 yards, and probably his receivers probably left 100 yards on the field just on close catches that almost didn't go their way or drops. He had the most beautiful throw of the day from his end zone to like the 50, and it was just flat out dropped. But TCU's defense is fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Like Shedeur Sanders, 510 yards, yes, and the running back, yes, but three of the game-changing plays were just simple throws to the running back in the flat, and TCU had no idea how to defend it. That's all. It was a 3-yard throw to the running back just to get 4th and 2, and TCU couldn't tackle. Like, that's a problem. I think Colorado's going to be the most fun team to watch in the country this year. I don't know how many – like, if you had to say right now, no, we're going to do top 10s later, so I want to see if they're in yours.
I have not watched full games from this year's week 1. Again, maybe throughout the week that I will. I have obviously watched a lot of highlights, whether it's just been during games or just on Twitter. And I knew how good Colorado looked, but to see the highlights spliced up between, just all of their offensive weapons, and to just see the way that Travis Hunter looked on both sides of the ball in a highlight package is beautiful. It is stunning.
Yeah, ESPN had to remind us 4 times during the Florida State LSU game last night that Colorado beat TCU. It was like, oh, here's like another. Not that we have too many ads or anything already. Here's another ad for just the highlight of Colorado TCU. Did you guys know this game happened?
Well, I'll tell you what.
Got to get used to it, Jack.
Another fascinating game is coming this weekend, because when that spread came out, Nebraska's a 3-point dog at Colorado. Wow, that you could have knocked me over with a feather when that happened. Like I was thinking maybe 9.5 or 10. 3. Vegas thinks Nebraska's going to win that game. Like, they think they're going to be in that game to the end.
It is bizarre. I guess it's maybe trying to give credit to the fact that TCU's defense was that bad.
I think Nebraska plays defense, and that's what Vegas is looking at.
TCU's defense was just, but also it's like we got the pop. I'm sorry, I have a screaming 6-month-old. Go
get him.
No.
Take care of him.
No, he's fine. He's not crying. He's screaming happy. He's trying to also enjoy the conversation, and his dad is right here. So I'm sorry. I think that the TCU, like, we're still trying to figure out exactly how bad TCU played. We're not giving Colorado enough credit when we do that. I think not us, like the collective.
No. Hold on, time. Let me just stop you there. There ain't nobody in the country not giving Colorado enough credit.
Well.
Nobody in the country is not giving Colorado enough credit.
If you say TCU is bad, that's usually saying Colorado is not as good.
It's not. I've been dealing with Florida State fans. When I say LSU was overrated, they say, "Oh, it can't be we won. It can't be we're good." No, listen. There's 2 teams in a game. All right, TCU is the same team they were last year. Really bad defense, except they're missing 2 major key components. They're missing a clutch quarterback, and they're missing the number 1 receiver who could make any play a touchdown last year. They had those 2 things, and therefore they won 12 games. They don't have that this year, and Chandler Morris threw their game away with 2 interceptions. But whatever. Anyway,
also, do you think that outside of the playoffs last year that they saw an offense that looked like Colorado's did the other day?
Oh, yeah, they gave up 40 points like 5 times.
But in general, the offense the guys that we saw, I know Texas had a decent offense. Oklahoma was supposed to, Kansas State, but like, they didn't see a team like Colorado firing on all cylinders every single week last year.
Yeah, they did.
They did.
They did. Like, they played Kansas State. They played, I
don't think at any point last year we were sitting there talking about Kansas State's offense, so we were talking about Colorado's offense. Are you trying to tell me Will Howard was in Heisman conversation?
Kansas State won a conference championship. I don't think Colorado's.
I'm not saying that as a whole. I'm saying that if we're not giving Colorado enough credit, like, we're sitting here talking about 2 guys in the Heisman top 5 right now. None of those teams last year were talking about.
Well, that's not going to last. It might last, but Heisman top 5s after week 1 is just us bloviating, really. So,
like, Denard Robinson would have 2 Heismans right now if it was like just week 1.
We have to react to week 1, though.
I know.
But the idea that Colorado isn't getting enough credit is crazy to me.
No, I'm saying that to say that offense that Colorado trotted out against TCU, maybe they don't trot it out every single game, but I don't believe that the defense that TCU had last year had to see an offense firing on all cylinders the way that Colorado's was last year until the playoff.
I think Colorado's offense might have been firing on all cylinders because they played TCU's defense.
That's all. That's the point I'm trying to make, is that TCU's defense was so bad against an offense that was firing on all cylinders that they didn't see that last year. I don't know why I'm getting looked at like I'm stupid.
Nobody's saying you're stupid. We're disagreeing with you. We're disagreeing with you. Not saying you're stupid.
Whose offense last year outside of the playoff against TCU played like Colorado did last week?
I mean,
but they were playing. You're kind of warping the conversation. They play. How should I say this? You're saying Colorado's offense played incredible. So how many times did TCU play an offense that played incredible? Well, Colorado's offense was playing TCU's defense, which is also what the offenses were playing last year.
Which is, when you say that, it's not giving Colorado the credit for being one of the best offenses this TCU defense has seen in the last 2 years outside of the playoff.
Colorado's offense is good.
TCU last year allowed 40 points to Oklahoma State, 34 to SMU, 31 to West Virginia. You know, they played some they allowed 45.
They played good offenses. I'm not taking that away. I'm just saying that I feel like we're saying like, oh, this is the same TCU team as last year. TCU also lost one game before the playoff last year. They wouldn't have, I don't believe that this TCU team last year would have lost if Colorado wasn't firing on all cylinders. Like, we're talking about Deion Sanders and Travis Hunter both having like games of their life. I mean, their records were broken at Colorado for Colorado's offense.
All right. So where else we going? We got top tens. We got best and worst of the weekend. What else we got? Oh, DJ at Oregon State. Jack?
Yeah, I mean,
what do you think? I mean, they don't need the quarterback to be that good, and he's like exactly what they need.
Great first game, took care of business at San Jose State, but I mean, they looked good, and Pac-12, we don't really have to say that much. Is probably the most interesting conference in the country this year, which is ironic considering it won't exist.
It is. This is a swan song, and the fact that Shedeur and Colorado did make the statement they made the other day, I mean, it legitimately puts 5 of the top 10 quarterbacks as of right now in the Pac-12. It's going to be what you saw against TCU is, I think, what you're going to see all year in every big Pac-12 game, because Washington, USC, Oregon, Colorado, Utah, if Rising is healthy, they're all going to be able to score. They're all going to throw the ball around the field. It's going to be 48-45 every single week, and it's going to be amazing.
It should be so much fun in the Pac-12. I mean, I still feel confident saying USC is going to win it, but how many, with Colorado emerging like they did, we now have, where's an easy game in that conference? I guess Arizona State a little bit. Arizona.
I know they won this weekend, but Cal and Stanford have to still be looked at as easy games, I think.
That's true. They just are. By the way, we should probably mention how they're in the ACC now.
So much of conference realignment, you can at least look at it and say, okay, well, that makes sense on paper. Who benefits from Cal, Stanford, and SMU in the ACC?
Nobody.
I guess the ACC gets to redo their TV contract and gets a little bit more money, but why?
I mean, it's the same thing that we said when it was happening, is the Atlantic Coast is now adding teams that are some of the most Pacific Coast teams you can possibly get. It just doesn't make sense.
I just can't wait for that women's basketball tussle between Cal and Wake Forest in the middle of February. Why are we flying? Why are we flying our tennis team 3,000 miles? Whatever. It's just crazy.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think the move basically, it shows that the ACC is at the bottom of the pile. That's a desperate move. Cal, Stanford, it's just bad. There's no joy in it. I think they're all taking cuts with it. SMU's not going to make money for the first 7 years.
How does that make sense, by the way?
I have no idea. I
don't either.
I know they obviously SMU is pretty much a school that's funded by their massive boosters, donors, whatnot. And I understand that the schools that are going there right now, when we look at, they're all very quote unquote privileged schools that have massive endowments. But I mean, Yeah, I have no idea. It's bizarre, and also it's just why SMU had 10,000 people at their game this weekend. How many SMU fans do you think listen to our podcast?
God, I hope none. Yeah, it's just it's weird. I don't like it. And
get the Dallas TV market, kind of.
Yeah,
Not
I guess
really.
that's what they.
I mean, I guess physically you do, but what are they ranked in the Dallas TV market? They're behind Texas A&M, TCU,
OU,
probably Baylor. Like they're behind all those teams. You don't get the TV market.
even
They may be
OU, but I mean, you still, I guess, technically get it because it is there. I mean, the campus is in Dallas, but
they may have more. They may be behind some SEC schools as well, because I mean it's Dallas and
yeah, LSU.
LSU is like there's
Arkansas.
so many.
Yeah,
I mean Dallas it's still SEC. I don't have to say it, but it's SEC country. Still is.
And don't ignore the fact that the teams that voted against this, I think Florida State, Clemson, and was it UNC? Yeah,
Yep.
Those are the three teams that are holding. Those are the three draws of the ACC, and they voted against it. What keeps them from 5 years from now saying, you know what, fuck it, we don't like this. This is stupid. Like I don't know.
Florida State already said they were gone.
That those three got whatever. Anyway, I don't even want to. It's football season. I'm not talking realignment no more. All right, y'all want to do our top tens?
is that where you want to go next?
I have no idea. We can just do best and worst of the weekend because I saw something today that needs to go on the worst of the weekend.
So I was telling Katie before you guys jumped on to record that I'm having trouble. I'll get better at it. I'm having so much trouble just not repeating my best and worst from Saturday because we're only like a couple days removed from it. But I guess I've seen some things since the Instant Reaction podcast that I can throw in there. And then obviously we have Florida State LSU.
I have the worst stuff that I saw recently.
Yeah, I think it might be the exact same thing I'm about to say.
Yeah, it's disgusting. What this guy has
this fucking guy, man. Credit. This fucking guy, Jack.
I mean, I don't want to take it from Brandon, but I think it's centered around food, and this guy's been getting credit. Oh, maybe we're different.
Mine's not. Yeah, okay. So let me go with mine then.
All right. So
I almost thought it was a joke blog. I thought it was a joke blog, and maybe it is a joke blog, and maybe it was a joke.
Oh, that Lane Kiffin?
No, joke blog. No, I know what you. Go ahead.
Kiffin promoted it.
Jim Harbaugh. Did y'all see this?
Yes.
They asked about his offense and his defense.
It's not a joke. It can't be.
He said, "There is no offense or defense. There's a we fence." This motherfucker.
I mean, it's cheesy, but if
don't you? God damn you, Casey! Are you really about to do this?
If it's cheesy, it's going to be. I mean, Jim Harbaugh is he's kind of a cheesy guy. He doesn't actually believe that, Brandon. You know,
yes, he does. No.
I think
that man is. There's no way that man is sitting at home being like, you know what, the next fire pregame speech thing I'm going to have is that we're a we fence. There's no way he's serious.
Yeah, yes, he is.
He's serious because he's Jim Harbaugh, but like he knows it's cheesy, right? Where'd he go?
Oh, well.
He unplug his Wi-Fi? What was yours?
Wait for Brandon to come back. I will talk about my awful thing that I saw, which was Shane Beamer in his post game brings up, if I recall correct, he brought up how the Chains guys, and after the second half, went and got some hot dogs before the game or before the second half, and they were late coming back for the Chains, and that was part of the reason why the clock was off the whole night and whatnot.
I didn't see this.
You can't say that after really laying an egg in a close to a rivalry game between you and North Carolina. And this was a big season for South Carolina, and coming in and saying, oh man, and I know it's probably not what he thought the actual reason he lost was, but maybe you go into a press conference like that and you don't bring that up. It's not the time. The Chains guys with the hot dogs is not the reason you lost. You laid an egg. Your offensive line looked putrid, and you got dominated in the marquee game of the day after the Colorado game. You know, they had the top tier time slot, and you come into the post game press conference and you bring that up. It's just, come on, Shane Beamer. I just expect better from you. Expect a better performance. I know the season can still turn around, but bring up the hot dogs. Come on, dude.
I did not see that. I feel like that somehow flew under the radar, but that seems to me that like that man is just like grasping for anything he possibly can, and blaming the chains guys in general is lame, let alone like, oh, they were eating hot dogs. I mean, that's just an all-time like loser move. And I like Shane Beamer, by the way. I think he's great. I mean, obviously it's to be seen how good of a head coach he's going to be there, but that's a sore loser, lame move, no doubt.
Yeah, we could have. It's just, and also he's also one of these cheesy coaches that we definitely could see more from, this cheesy stuff. So I get it. And it's right after the game. They come up. He's probably pissed off. He wanted them to perform better, but bringing up the chains guys and them getting a hot dog and the clock being off. I mean, it's not like I guess the clock would be off the same for North Carolina. But that's just Shane Beamer.
The chains guys eating hot dogs would also affect North Carolina if we're getting really technical on this take.
Also, not like the game was close. If it was a field goal, then fine. There was that.
Yes,
was not the
no,
difference
yeah, 100%, Katie. I mean, like what? You guys won by 17?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know we talked about this on Saturday, and Katie, I saw that you like reacted when I said it. Like, did you, as a North Carolina fan, not just like absolutely roll your eyes whenever they were comparing Drake May and Spencer Rattler as like equal quarterbacks?
There's two Spencer Rattlers. There's the Tennessee, South Carolina. If that same quarterback showed up, then I was like, okay, fine. But the odds that happened, and it clearly did not, are so small. Spencer Rattler and Drake May are not in the same sentence.
No, and they kept saying they were the best two in the ACC, and I was like, are they forgetting that like Jordan Travis is alive? Like that, it was very bizarre.
Yeah. There's also, I think it was a joke blog. This is what I thought Jack was talking about initially. I saw Lane Kiffin tweeted out that the Juice Kiffin, the dog, beat out Mintz to be the T-boy for the game.
Wait, what?
Well,
Someone blogged that. I didn't click into it.
Well, I wanted to bring this up to Brandon. I meant to bring it up on Saturday night, but we were just like at the end and it was just over. But yeah, Juice Kiffin was the dog last night, or the T-dog on Saturday afternoon, and he was very good at it. It was one of the most viral clips of the college football Saturday, outside of Deion, of course. And Juice looked like he's a great T-dog. I wanted to see what Brandon thought about it. I guess we'll save it for him. Brandon's computer went out. He texted us. So we'll continue on. He'll get back in when he gets back in. We'll save Juice Kiffin for Brandon, because I want to know what he thinks about Juice Kiffin in terms of everything.
I want it on record before he gets back on that I will not stand for any Juice Kiffin slander, not just Juice, any dog slander on this podcast. We don't slander mascot dogs.
Yeah, Miss Reveille. That's easy sometimes.
No, Miss Rev is just a queen. We will not.
I will say, I mean, maybe Mintz, it would be hilarious. The visual of Mintz running on the field to pick up the T would be absolutely unbelievable. But I will say, Juice was a viral superstar. Our tweet had 4.4 million views. And then let's check out the SEC's tweet.
Wait, the blog about Mintz, was that written by somebody at Barstool?
I think so. Let me go see if I can find who wrote it.
That's why I was like,
I would assume like it was like,
if that's a real thing, let's just play hypothetical. There's no way that that's real, but if it was real, can you imagine Mintz and Juice Kiffin like racing to get that T to see who gets? Obviously, a dog would win, but like
Juice would win.
But it'd be the Arizona Bowl 2.0 with Jersey Jerry and the
girl
staff. Yeah.
But I will tell you one thing: if Mintz wants a chance to beat out Juice Kiffin, he's got to start eating a little bit healthier with HelloFresh. Kickstart a fresh fall routine with HelloFresh. HelloFresh handles all the meal planning and shopping to deliver everything you need to cook up a tasty meal right at home. They do the hard part, and you get to take the credit. Isn't that right, Casey?
It is, right? It is so easy. And I have taken credit plenty of times. I've pretended I've made meals and just thrown the instructions away because it's that delicious. And we talk about this all the time. The pre-portioned ingredients is the key to this because it shows up to your door wherever you live and it's cold, it's fresh, and it's all exactly what you need. So you don't have to go to the store and buy a random bottle of stuff you're not ever going to use again. And you get to pick out your menu. And if you want to eat super healthy, if you want something hearty, if you want something keto friendly, family friendly, whatever, HelloFresh has got you. And it is a great thing to do when, kids, if you have kids and you're listening to this, they're going back to school right now, work is ramping up, obviously football, whatever you've got going on. It's just so easy to just have that nice meal on the table for whenever you get home after a busy day.
That's right. A new season calls for new meals, and HelloFresh has a fresh fall lineup of delicious dinners and more to choose from. Go to HelloFresh.com/50Walker. Use code 50Walker for 50% off plus 15% off the next 2 months. That's right. Go to HelloFresh.com/50Walker and use code 50Walker for 50% off plus 15% off the next 2 months. That's a deal you cannot beat. And it appears we have Brandon Walker back in the podcast, which is great. And I will say, Brandon's using his code right now at HelloFresh.com. Thank you, HelloFresh.com.
Love HelloFresh.
I was just gone because I had to go make some HelloFresh. And if you noticed, it only took me a few minutes and I already ate it and it was delicious.
Yeah, well, I mentioned during the ad that if you have all your kids coming home from school, it's the best thing to do. All your kids are coming back from the lake. So I'm sure they were starving and you just whipped it up real quick.
Brandon, I will say, while you're gone, we spent about 20 minutes just talking about the hottest new prospect in college football, Juice Kiffin. He's the T-boy, the dog. The T-Dog over in Ole Miss. I don't know if you saw the clip from over the weekend. He's a viral superstar.
Yeah, that's great. Yay. Lane Kiffin's the only coach with a goddamn dog. Okay.
No dog slander.
Huh?
No dog slander.
He's using the dog for attention.
Well, Katie mentioned this, that it was a joke blog written from somebody at Barstool, but that Ben Mintz and Juice Kiffin are going to have a competition of who should be the T person.
Juice Kiffin is at least twice as smart as Ben Mintz. There's no doubt about that.
Well, and also much faster, we would assume.
I don't know. I think Mintz can pick him up and put him down.
Imagine the video that would come out of that, though.
No, I don't want to see it.
No,
exactly.
The problem is nothing Mintz tries to do intentionally is a good video. It would be if he was just like standing. The typical Mintz video for that would be if he was standing on the sideline, Juice Kiffin went and got the tee. When it came back, it peed on Ben Mintz's leg.
Yes.
That's a Ben Mintz video. He just has to be around the camera, and the camera's going to find him and make something funny happen.
What was the video, or what was the show that he was on? That he was on
Matt Moscona down there in Baton Rouge. I think Baton Rouge, maybe New Orleans. I think it was Moscona. And he got through talking, and he just stood up and went and stood right in front of the camera.
He just got up from the desk. Like everyone knows you just sit and wait for the commercial break. And he just got up and just stood directly in front of the guy's camera. It was so fucking funny.
All right. So looking back at the weekend, I had a couple of bests I wanted to pull out because there are some, and I know we've already talked about this a lot on Saturday, but going back, I do think Drew Aller qualifies. There's somebody said this on Twitter, and I think I agree with it. We might have more good quarterbacks this year than we've had in a long time in college football.
I don't hate that. And star power ones too, not just like guys that can get the job done, like guys with like big names that have the potential to be like the star of the sport. In
the ACC alone, player of the year race might be between Drake May and Jordan Travis, and we'll see what Cade Klubnik looks like. But that's two big time quarterbacks in the ACC. You got Sam Hartman at Notre Dame. I think Drew Aller is going to be a dude at Penn State. Now I have to stretch it a little bit here, but JJ McCarthy is at Michigan. People think that of him, so I got to put him in there for you guys. I don't think it of him, but whatever. And then the Pac-12 is loaded with quarterbacks. The Big 12 is got a good quarterback. So and the SEC is probably the worst quarterback league in the country right now.
Which is weird, but I mean, if you talk about like star power, depending on what Carson Beck looks like, depending on if Jalen Milroe continues, like Connor Wegman, Joe Milton, like you can go down the list of these guys that have that potential. They're just not there yet. But I mean, Quinn Ewers for the Big 12, obviously, like these guys have like they're, I hate to be cliche, but it's like a lot of them have that like swag about them where it's like they're not just like college football guys that are just gonna win quietly and then move on to another career. These are like big time stars. Or could
one thing I wanted to talk about this weekend was do y'all think Ohio State fans are secretly a little worried they don't have a quarterback?
No.
You don't?
Yeah.
I think that well, it depends. Are we talking about the rational ones or the ones?
Okay, no. Let's do it a different way. Outwardly and inwardly. So outwardly, they're acting like they are not worried about their quarterback. Oh, it's fine. It was just conservative play calling. Well, I've seen you play Indiana a lot. I don't know that I've ever seen you go conservative play calling. I've seen you play in week 1 a lot. I don't think I've seen you go conservative play calling. And they said C.J. Stroud 2 years ago had a bad debut. He had, compared to the debut of the other day, he was Joe Montana. Like he didn't have a great debut, but it wasn't close to what this was the other day. So inwardly, Ohio State fans got to be a little worried that they don't have a guy.
They might be worried inwardly. They would never admit it outwardly, but there's going to be that but, and they're going to do everything you just said. Conservative play calling. It's an opener. They didn't have to. They still won. They're going to do all of that internally. They're going to make all the excuses for themselves. You're going to have to see that happen against a team that, like, if for some reason Ohio State trotted out the same disgusting performance against a team that's not even a Power 5 team, then they're actually going to be worried. But they're going to make excuses.
Chances are they'll be fine, though. That being said, we do have that Notre Dame game coming up. So,
that's going to be awesome.
It's fun that we have a lot of these games early for a lot of these teams with big questions, but that's probably just due to the fact that so many teams have so many questions. Even Florida State after last night, you think you would have we want to see them against Clemson still. That doesn't mean we definitely, and maybe that's a good segue to the top 10 surrounding where we have a lot of these teams, because, that Clemson Florida State game could really be 3 versus 4, 2 versus 3. I mean, it could really be a battle of who really is going to take that conference by the the balls.
So to further that question, Brandon, here's a question for you about and I know how you feel about JJ McCarthy and I know how you feel about Drew Aller, but do you think Ohio State fans, if they're telling themselves the truth, can step back and say, okay, all offseason we've been talking about Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State and what those quarterback situations are going to look like. If they step back and they say, okay, like regardless if you want to give Kyle McCord a pass and everything else, that we have the worst quarterback situation of the 3 teams.
I think they'll with good reason need to see at least a game or 2 more, but through 1 week, I don't know how, and I'm not even going to compare them to Penn State and Michigan. Okay, compare them to where Ohio State's been at the quarterback position for the last 5, 6, 7 years. They've never not had a guy. Like they went from they had Dwayne Haskins in 1 year. They went from him to Justin Fields. They went from him to C.J. Stroud. And C.J. Stroud was shaky early, but then he got it. And I don't know. I don't know that Kyle McCord or Devin Brown strike me as C.J. Stroud in 3 weeks or a month. So we'll see.
We'll see. I have a good and I need to correct myself a little bit from Saturday. Not necessarily correct myself. I need to give credit where credit is due. When we talked about Baylor and Texas State, I said that Baylor had no business losing to Texas State, which I still stand by. But that's a huge win for Texas State. That really is. Like I wasn't locked into that game. It was at the same time as a lot of other games. But like the fact, I know you mentioned Dave Aranda and we talked about where Baylor was a few years ago. Like I had Texas State fans being like, how come you can't give us credit? Some guy said I was gaslighting, which he just doesn't know the definition of gaslighting. But I do need to say Baylor was obviously very bad, but that's a huge win for Texas State. So that's on my good list.
Well, that's nice that you're making nice with them, because Texas State pussies, let me tell you something. Baylor should never lose to Texas State. Shut the fuck up. You're lucky to get mentioned. Okay.
What? Why are you so mad at Texas State?
Whenever somebody does something like, give us credit. No, Baylor should never lose to you. And that's a true fact, okay? That is a true statement.
No, it is.
Baylor should never lose to Texas State. Alabama should never lose to Troy. Georgia should never lose to Mercer. Like, that's just how these things work in these states, okay? Baylor should never lose to Texas State. Don't get in your feelings, say, oh, well, he's got to give us credit. No, that's a true fact, and you know it's a true fact. All right. So we've seen everybody but 2 teams play. Okay. Let's do top 10. So where they are right now. So I've got a top 10. Casey, I want you to go first because I know I'm going to get mad at yours. And this is I know this team's going to rip this podcast apart this season, and that's fine. It's going to rip everything apart. But go ahead.
Okay. My one caveat, I'm not putting Clemson anywhere in it because I want to see them play tonight. So that is a caveat. So just put that. Okay. Number 1, Georgia.
All right. Fair enough.
Number 2, Michigan.
Fair.
Number 3, Florida State. Number 4, Alabama. Number 5, USC. Number 6, Ohio State. Number 7.
Hold on. Time. I'm not interrupting you. I just, when the discussion comes up, I'd like to have it.
Okay.
You had USC at number 5? I
do have them there.
They did struggle in week 1.
They did. They still ended up winning by like 30 points and then took care of, I mean, the offense is so good. Again, to be seen, but I'm not going to drop them for taking care of business week to week.
Okay, go 6.
Ohio State.
Okay.
And I dropped them just because they won, but they didn't take care of business. Those are 2 different things to me. Number 7, Penn State. I've moved them up. Number 8, Notre Dame. I really like Notre Dame. I like Sam Hartman. Number 9, Texas, and number 10, Washington.
You didn't do it.
I didn't do it. I know you thought I was going to do it, but I didn't do it.
Why didn't you do it? How close did you get to doing it?
If we're talking about week 1 in an absolute vacuum, which goes back to the argument we had earlier, if we're talking about week 1 in a vacuum, then obviously you put Colorado in that conversation. But if we're looking at big picture and where these teams are, week to week, I can't with good faith put Colorado in that conversation after week 1. Now we're going to see what's going to happen. I mean, they play USC at the end of this month, I believe. I think it's like the very last week of September. So different conversations are going to happen, but I can't sit here seriously and say Colorado is a top 10 team after.
Think about it.
Oh, I definitely thought about it. I mean, come on, you got to think about it. Now, I'm not saying it would be crazy to not have them in the conversation before this month is over. If they play and that offense plays the way that it played for multiple weeks and months, then absolutely.
Yeah. What do you think? The over-under to start the season was 3.5. I think we can all agree that's out the window.
Well, I mean, they play, what are the next 2 games are, you're assuming, I mean, Nebraska, I think I'm going to say they're going to beat Nebraska. Then I think it's Colorado State.
It is Colorado State.
Okay. So right there, let's say they take care of business against Nebraska or just be whatever. They're at 3 wins before they even get out of September. Like that's like they're hitting. I
also think they go Oregon, USC back to back as well.
And that's going to be tough. But I mean, again, we're talking about a team that people were saying to take the under of their team total wins. And I guess, if that's the way you felt, I did not feel that way. They're going to hit that before they even get out of this month. But I did, but not, when you said in the group text, like, you're going to quit the podcast if I put Colorado in the top 10 and I said, stay tuned. It was more because I just wanted to see this reaction when I didn't put them in. You have to be like, oh, okay, I don't have a reason to get mad at her.
I spent the last hour getting ready for you to put them in. So
I told Katie before we started recording, I was like, I know that this man is going to sit here ready to pounce on me and he's not going to have any type of opportunity because I'm not going to do it. But I thought about it. I also did drop LSU out of the top 10. They're right outside the top 10 for me. But like after the way they played, and I could be wrong, like Jack said earlier, they could bounce back in the SEC and have a fine season. But you can't have 31 unanswered points in the second half and just absolutely lay down. And I understand they were lost to a top 10 team, but keep you there. Like, they were overrated, in my opinion, to start with. And then that second half performance was not top 10 worthy.
Jack, who would you vote the top 10 teams in America right now?
All right. Number 1, Georgia. Number 2, Michigan. Number 3, Clemson. Number 4, Ohio State. Texas, Florida State, Penn State 7, Oregon 8, Notre Dame 9, USC 10.
All right. Let me discuss with you now. Florida State came into this game number 8 in the country. They won. They beat number 5, and you only moved them up to 6. You kept them behind 5 other teams. I find that interesting.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't have had Florida State there to begin with. I mean, we don't really have one to compare to. I probably would have had Florida State 10, 11, 12 coming to the season. I definitely doubted them more than they should have. I don't think I would have had LSU at 5 either. I would have probably had them 7, 8. So I definitely see, and also the gap between Clemson at 3, or even I think Michigan at 2, and USC at 10, and that even goes down to like Washington, Utah, a little bit further teams down. I don't think it's very wide. I think Georgia, we're fair to say, is a little bit above. I'm just realizing I don't even have Alabama in my top 10. I think I should. I'd probably put them after Florida State. So that kicks USC out at 11. But the gap in these teams from 2 to I think maybe 17, 18, at least right now, is very, very slim.
And I think the gap between 1 and 2 only exists because Georgia has won the last 2 national titles.
Yeah, and I think we're giving them some credit, and they have to prove that. And I even think Tennessee had a pretty decent game. They came slow out of the gate, but even looking at Georgia, right? Georgia's schedule right now, it just got a little bit easier because South Carolina week 3 should be easier than we thought. And then Auburn on the road, I guess, is their first real tough game. And we're talking about a team that their first tough game is Auburn, who Auburn's going on the road this weekend to California to play Cal Berkeley, and they're only 7-point favorites. So it's not like, it's, and then I guess Kentucky even looked a little bit less than average. Florida, their tough first game, I think, is in November against Missouri.
All right. So Katie, your top 10, please.
It's weird. I think I'm very much the same thing with Jack, where I think there's like 2 groups. I have Georgia, Michigan, Bama at 3, Florida State at 4, and I think that's one group. And then this group, I think 5 through 10 could be really interchangeable for me. Ohio State, USC, Washington, Clemson, Notre Dame, Oregon.
All right. I've got Georgia 1, but I guess I'm just a huge, gigantic Florida State fan because I got them number 2. I think they were so impressive.
And also, you're not a big Michigan person.
I mean, that's
and I'm not trying to talk shit. Like that's just
irrelevant to me. I got Michigan 3. Like I got Georgia 1, Florida State 2. I mean, Florida State went out and beat LSU. I mean, beat them to sleep, right? So if we're gonna call LSU a number 5 team, let's give them the damn rewards when they.
But you didn't think they were a number 5 team.
I didn't, but I still thought they were number. I said they should be between 12 and 15. Beating number 12 or number 15, 45-24 is impressive.
All right, that's true.
So I got number 1 Georgia, number 2 Florida State, number 3 Michigan, number 4 Alabama. I got 5 Penn State. I think they're really fucking good. I got Washington at 6. I think they're really fucking good. Notre Dame at 7. Ohio State checks in at 8. Texas at 9, and then Oregon, a team I don't know that I don't think I expected that much out of them this year. I thought they would be behind USC, Washington, and Oregon State. They played a nobody, but 81 points. Like they're gonna be somebody to be reckoned with. So
no USC for you.
No USC. I don't think the defense is good enough. Yeah, and in fact, you bring in somebody like Colorado and you make that offense electric. All of a sudden, USC's job just gets a little bit tougher. Where because USC, I don't think has a very good defense. I think Washington, maybe Oregon are the only 2 teams out there that really have solid defense. Well, I guess Utah too.
How do you rank? And this is kind of on the top of our heads, so we cannot. This is to be changed or determined, not determined, but to be changed. I guess is TBC ever said no? But how do you rank the Pac-12 right now?
So it's difficult because the 2-time defending champ has a hurt quarterback. And by the way, they're going on the road to Baylor. Baylor's got a backup quarterback, and they're favored by 6. That's a funky line too.
That's very weird.
Oregon is at Texas Tech, who lost Wyoming. They're -7. That's a funky line. The week 1 to week 2, and I'll get back to your question in a minute, Jack, but I'm off on a rabbit trail right now. The week 1 to week 2 adjustments, improvements, and nobody's ever as good as they were week 1. Nobody's ever as bad as they were week 1. I think Texas Tech still has a tremendous chance to give Oregon all they want this weekend. Now, how would I rank the Pac-12? I like Washington. I picked Washington to win it to begin with, so I like Washington number 1. USC, I know they're going to score 45 points every time they go out, so I got to go with them. I would go with Oregon next, then Utah, then Oregon State. And then there's a drop off with Colorado probably on deck to grab that 6th spot, maybe. I don't know.
I think you have to after what we saw.
Well, listen, UCLA's not bad. I think Arizona's not terrible. And I'm missing an obvious team too.
Wait, are you going to the Mississippi State Arizona game?
I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. I could.
That's the weekend, right?
We're going to be in Tuscaloosa. Our show's at 4. We'll be done at 5. Mississippi State's an hour away. So
I go Oregon, USC, Washington, Utah, Oregon State, Washington State, UCLA, Colorado, Cal. I think Cal has a shot to be like actually pretty decent. I probably would change UCLA above Washington State, but this is a really good conference, man. I mean, it's like Stanford's, but even Stanford took care of business this weekend in Hawaii, which is it's their first game under a new coach. They scored, I think, 37 points. This is a chance to be last year, but I guess I'm thinking back to last year when it's like, oh my God, everyone in the Big 12 is good. And then we look back on the Big 12 and think to ourselves, man, was anybody actually good?
yeah.
Yeah, I think I would go USC, Washington, Oregon State, Colorado. Did I miss somebody?
Do you say
No.
Utah?
Yeah, Utah. I feel like when you said there's a huge drop off, then there's Colorado. If we're going off of just week 1, I guess I don't want to have this argument again, but after the way they played against the team that lost in the national championship, I feel like they're in that conversation for week 1.
100%, and that will get figured out.
I don't think so, but I like to disagree, Casey. I don't think so. I'll just say it like this. No, I don't know. The Nebraska +3 has freaked me out about Colorado. Like that's just so crazy. Anyway,
why though? I think that line's completely fair, at least in my opinion. Yeah, because I mean, we know how Vegas power rates teams. They don't change that much off of one performance.
Yeah.
I would say probably the look ahead line in that game was Nebraska -3, like -3, probably under a touchdown.
I think last week it was 7.
All right. And so I would even say that you could make an argument that's a hell of an overreaction. When have you seen a spread flip 10 points?
Yeah.
But that being said, that's why it's like when people get into like, why'd you doubt Deion? Why'd you doubt Deion? This is something we've never seen before. He flipped over a team that went 1-11 last year, and he's starting his son at quarterback, who turned out to be much better than we thought. There's a reason why we doubted him. And now a lot of us, and I know Casey was definitely in more so of that. She was a believer, but like there's very substantial evidence why we doubted him. It's not like it was crazy that we were doubting him. And now we don't even know how to react. How do you even take this team? But that's why I think that line makes a lot of sense, because there's probably a lot of like large groups out there that are just waiting to put a lot of money on Nebraska.
Casey?
Yes,
is it okay to not be okay?
Brandon, it is more than okay to not be okay.
Because we're all going through some things. We're all fighting our own fights. We're all battling our own battles. We all gotta figure out what works for us. Well, if you're out there and that sounds like you, Jack, do we have BetterHelp or not?
We have BetterHelp, Jack.
We do have BetterHelp, and Unnecessary Roughness is sponsored by BetterHelp. And guess what? We have those moments where it feels like the thoughts are racing. You can't go to bed. You brought up, Casey, how sometimes Brandon is just tweeting out office quotes at 4 a.m.
The man does not sleep.
And if you're thinking of starting therapy, which I think everybody should think about, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your and my schedule. That's huge. One of the downsides is, you have to go to this random office and somewhere that's 30 minutes away. You have to drive in the middle of your day. You have work, meetings, whatnot. No, BetterHelp is here to do it online, over the phone. It could even be messaging. It can be video conference or on the phone. BetterHelp,
all confidential. It's all confidential.
All confidential. They give you so many things to like options, which is just huge.
It's also much cheaper than traditional therapy, which is another thing that people look at sometimes with the price tag of therapy. And they're like, you know what? I could really use somebody to talk to, whether, like I've always said, whether you're dealing with mental health stuff or you just need somebody to vent to, which everybody usually does, that price tag will usually scare people away, not with BetterHelp. And like Jack said, texting. I mean, texting is huge. Like if you have a therapist that they match you with, which they do that. And if you don't work it out with that person, they can match you with somebody else. You just shoot them a text, be like, hey, I'm having a really hard day. I'm having these thoughts. I'm having those thoughts. And they can help you out on the spot.
Get a break from your thoughts with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/Smith. That's right, BetterHelp.com/Smith today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Smith.
Okay. So we asked the Roughnecks, what are you feeling after week 1? What's your hottest take? How are you feeling? I guess we haven't done this in a while, but we're going to go right through them. Heath, same old Vols, says outside of Georgia and maybe Alabama, Tennessee has the best front seven in the SEC. Yes, we start with a dumbass Tennessee fan. Tennessee fans they can't just say we played well. They can't just say, oh, we look good. They have to say, we have the best front seven in the SEC. No, you don't. You played Virginia, and Virginia's right tackle was less effective than I would be out there. Virginia might be the worst team in the country. And that they are really, really, really. Oh, Jack, Northwestern does exist, though. God, Northwestern Rutgers.
What a gross game. Jack, I do have to know, though, as our resident Rutgers hater, was it hard to watch Rutgers win?
No, they proved me wrong. Rutgers Twitter got a hold of my I bet Northwestern +6 tweet, and they're all now saying I'm awful at my job. They should have their parade. Congrats on beating a team that lost their coach 2 weeks ago. I'm really proud of you guys. You took care of business.
No Context College Football says Pac-12 has 11 teams worth watching every week, and I won't hear otherwise. Yeah, I don't see where that's because even the teams we haven't mentioned, Washington State has a great quarterback. Arizona's fun to watch. Arizona State's kind of fun to watch. I guess he's talking about Cal, Stanford, and I guess
Cal scored 55 points this week,
and every run went for like 200 yards. I think was it Ott? They got a guy named Ott, I believe.
Yeah, Jaden Ott he's a great running back, and that Cal team's very fun. So I mean, I think he probably is including Cal in there.
At CFB Talk Daily says the SEC reeks. Now, does the SEC reek? Probably not. I think the SEC might be down, guys. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. The
outside
SEC,
of Georgia.
No, hold on. We'll figure out Georgia later. Obviously, Georgia and Alabama are national title contenders until we find out otherwise, right? Okay. Florida goes out of the conference and plays Utah. They get beat by 2 touchdowns. South Carolina goes outside the conference and they get beat by whatever it was. And then LSU just falls apart in the second half against Florida State. So that's Utah, North Carolina, and Florida State. Now, it's one thing for the SEC to lose all of those games. Florida's not very good, and Utah is very good. So you understand that. However, Utah beat Florida up. They were more physical than them. They beat them up. North Carolina treated South Carolina like a rag doll. They beat them up. 9 sacks. They beat the shit out of them. Florida State beat LSU up. I mean, they were just bigger, stronger, faster. Like, it's one thing to lose games. All 3 of those teams were physically better than all 3 of the SEC teams. And LSU was supposed to be a title contender, and they're getting ragdolled in front of God and everybody. Like, God bless North Carolina, Katie, but I can't remember the last time I saw them physically dominate a team like they physically dominated South Carolina. Like, this is not good for the SEC. And you're not talking about Florida's bad, but people thought South Carolina was pretty good. People thought LSU was great. The SEC might – I think it's a worse way to say it. The SEC – the rest of the country might be better than they've been compared to the SEC. How about that?
The gap is closed.
The other fan bases are like a dog that's been like a puppy that's been locked in a cage for like all day. He went away. Maybe you went and played golf and you returned home to your dog who was in the cage the whole day. And they are chomping at the bit because, oh my God, people are ready to get on SEC fans. Now, don't blow your load too early because there's a lot of things that still have to happen. But I haven't seen something like this outside of sometimes like during bowl season, people will be like, oh, the ACC beat the SEC in 3 out of 4 bowls or whatever. But it does feel like there's not a shift in football as a whole, but this is the closest it's been.
Yeah.
The
If Texas beats Alabama, look the fuck out.
I mean, that's a whole different thing. I mean, people were salivating over on Twitter whenever they were able to say, like, the SEC went 0-3 in non-conference games, like the marquee matchup games, obviously against good teams, not against like the cupcake teams. People love throwing that out. If Texas beats Alabama, now, Brandon, we're going to be there. And I am I put my own brain in a pretzel because I don't know how I'm going to play this to the crowd, because obviously I don't know what I'm going to do, because I have Texas obviously winning the Big 12, but I don't know. If Texas beats Alabama in Tuscaloosa, the way that people are going to react to that, it'll be like Texas won the national championship over Alabama.
It'll probably feel like it. Well,
for sure. But I'm saying again, we have to wait for Georgia to actually like stumble and fall, which it's not going to happen for a long time with this schedule, to say like the SEC is like dead or down this season. But if Alabama falls and Georgia's the only one left standing with like a proven like top of the country ranking, it's going to be hard for SEC fans. SEC fans are not going to like it. Can you imagine the Paul Feinbaum show after if Texas wins?
I mean, I would never watch that bullshit anyway, so no, I couldn't imagine it. College football insider J-Rob says Dylan Gabriel playing so well is going to make him lose his job. Oklahoma will be in so many blowouts. Jackson Arnold will play and play well, and it'll just turn the heat up on Dylan Gabriel. I know they've been chomping at the bit, and Oklahoma fans can't wait. They beat Arkansas State 73-0, and you'd think they beat the goddamn Philadelphia Eagles. You would think this thing there. I've got guys showing up and saying, oh, yeah, you all offseason you said this, but now look at us, huh? Look at us now. Yeah, you played Butch Jones, Arkansas State. Like 73-0's great. Fantastic. Yay. But can we wait till we crown Oklahoma back?
We can wait. I do think I said this on Saturday night too, as well. I do think that it was a very like, hey guys, we know we looked like shit last year and we're going to take it out on whoever we possibly can. And if you're an OU fan, like you have to hang your hat on something. Like they didn't go out and win like, 35-0, 50-0. They just, they were trying to score 100. So if A&M did that, I would be pretty excited too.
Arkansas State's a bottom 5 team in the country.
Yes.
They're bad.
I'm not saying that we should say they're very good, but if you're an OU fan, you can be like, hey, listen.
Yes, I like you pushing back on us, but if they beat SMU by 4 touchdowns this weekend, all right, then I'll listen. Then I'll be like, all right, fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's kind of the opposite way that like Ohio State fans like would say internally that they're feeling like, yeah, and Indiana is a different story than Arkansas State. I do understand that, but it's like if you ask Ohio State fans like how they would want to open and beat Indiana the way that they should and the way they didn't, like they're going to feel differently. If OU only won by like 2 or 3 touchdowns, we'd be like, well, they still won. No, they just beat the shit out of them. That's got to.
Rick 13 Vegas says Colorado, they came. Oh, I guess that's in reference to we coming. Okay.
Yep.
FSU football is a wagon. Ohio State may not be playoff caliber, and holy Pac-12 Batman. Okay, we asked you for 1 take. You gave me 4.
Oh, actually, and you know what's he actually tweeted more too. They came at Deion Sanders. Oh wait, that's the same. The Ohio State looked less than playoff ready. Was that in that one? I missed it. Okay, sorry, I was looking.
That's okay. It happens.
My bad.
Let's see. Jack. By the way, when Jack asked when Jack tweeted this, he included a picture of Michigan lining up with the 11 guys in a row for Jim Harbaugh, right, Jack?
Yeah, with the 4. They were all holding up their 4s.
And then Matthew Euling says, my week 1 take is that this picture was the cheesiest, most lame aspect of the entire week of college football, and likely won't be topped this entire season. Honestly, embarrassing for Michigan. It does feel like they're leaning into the cheesiness really hard, really fucking hard.
You got to own it, right?
Yeah, and then the free Harbaugh thing too with JJ wearing it. It's just
I'm okay with that. That's funny. The cheesiness on the field, like
but he wasn't doing it to be funny.
You don't think a little bit?
Okay, it didn't feel like it. I don't think JJ McCarthy has jokes. Maybe
don't know that, but
I don't know that.
Even as somebody who gives Michigan a lot of credit, the formation thing was quite literally like the man had died. Like,
Let me read one that proves how stupid people are. Blake Stackpool, who's been with us a while and is one of my frequent flyers, says Ohio State is cooked, and the top 2 teams in the Big Ten are in Ann Arbor and State College. Sorry, Buckeye Brandon. You dumb fuck. Why are you on some old shit? I picked Penn State to win the Big Ten and the national title this year. Brewers Sooner says the Big 12 goes through Norman, Oklahoma once again. Well, that's just patently false. Again, they beat Arkansas State. Like, pump the brakes, guys. Yeah.
As I was trying to give them a little bit of credit in the previous take, I will say I agree with you guys here. What happened to Texas? What happened to Kansas State? What happened in these arguments? Like Oklahoma beating Arkansas State just catapulted them above those other teams?
I mean, Oklahoma won against Arkansas State to bring Brent Venables' Oklahoma head coaching record to 500. He is now 7-7 as a head coach. Yay.
Quickly, 2 things.
Yeah.
One, last year, Alabama didn't send its band to Austin for Texas game because it would be sat in the upper deck. This year, Alabama will be returning the favor. Upper deck tickets only for Texas fans banned. So I do love that move by Alabama. Also, Brandon, did you see the viral picture of your favorite coach in college football?
Who?
Sam Pittman.
Oh, the rack? Yeah. I can make fun of him for a lot of things, but I can't make fun of him.
I know. But for people that are not aware of this, Sam Pittman is currently going viral for a photo of him with the Huckabee Sanders family, which is the political family from, Sarah Huckabee Sanders from the Trump administration. And then her father was the governor of Arkansas, I think, at one point. Mike Huckabee. And they're all together. And Mike Huckabee's titties are essentially
not Mike Huckabee's, Sam Pittman's.
Oh, Sam Pittman's titties are essentially out, and there's multiple viral tweets of people on Twitter who don't know who Sam Pittman is, who are saying things along the lines of I have to read this for our audience because I mean
I haven't read the comments or the replies. I can only imagine.
There was one that said, here we go. If I let my big naturals just hang out in a tight polo shirt, someone would tell me to put a bra on. It's not fair. That tweet has 2 million views. There's another person who replied to it and said, who the dude in the middle with the tits? That has 88,000 views. The mic or the photo of, and for those watching on YouTube, you'll see it right now.
Oh yeah. The way that you just got the view of him right up there on the camera too is just.
That tweet has 5 million views on Twitter. So, I mean, Sam Pittman has gone viral on, I don't even know, just Twitter in general, not college football Twitter.
Let me read a few more and we'll get out of here. King J Hip says Colorado is overhyped and the constant filleting of them by the media is annoying. FSU looks like a contender. Ohio State needs to figure it out for the Notre Dame game. A&M finally has an offense, ? Your fans were doing a little of that Oklahoma shit too, Casey. I got some DMs for Texas A&M fans saying, "Oh, you're not going to talk about Connor Wegman?" No, I'm not yet. No.
I mean, I talked a little bit about it in my backwards shit list over the weekend, which I got some people are like, "Oh, A&M scored points. Let's put them on the shit list." It was like, no. If you listened, I said Jimbo Fisher is on my shit list for not having an offensive coordinator before this year. But you have to understand, which every fan base does, whatever you were made fun of in the year before, even if you're beating a nobody, you'll take it to heart. Connor Wegman, Evan Stewart, those guys. I'm still Bobby Petrino. It's still out there, but I put out a tweet to the same thing. There were multiple people, not with A&M in their profile, by the way, that were saying like, could A&M win the West? Is A&M the favorite in the West outside Alabama? Now that LSU's fallen, like that's not a crazy thing to say.
A couple more. Fake Derek Dietrich says Ohio State will have a top 5 defense in college football this year. I guarantee the Ohio State defense holds Penn State to 21 or fewer when they meet up in October. All right, that's bold.
I have one that's I hadn't thought about this, which I don't think is going to happen, but maybe. So Gold Leader, Caveman Fit said, hottest take, Manning will ride the bench for Texas all season, transfer to Bama in the offseason, and be the last quarterback Saban takes to a natty before retiring. Book it.
Why would he transfer to Bama?
It's a hot take. He said the hottest take.
Because Alabama, you should have seen what Travi said on Saturday night while we were watching the games. He said Tyler Buckner came to Alabama not to win a starting job, but to help the other quarterbacks on the team prepare because he knows the offense and teach the offense. Tyler Buckner said, you know what? I'm giving up on my college football career to help the goodness of Alabama football.
It's unbelievable. And he truly probably believes that.
Yes, he thinks Tyler Buckner decided, no, I have no chance of winning this starting job. I'm just coming to help out Jalen Milroe. And also, Jalen Milroe is now God. He has turned from not being able to complete a pass to, oh my goodness gracious, Jalen Milroe is the future of Alabama football.
The game this weekend is going to be, I mean, I hope it's an actually like a good competitive game. But the takes, I mean, today's a holiday for most people. So like, it's kind of like people are just enjoying their boats, their pools, their beaches. Starting tomorrow, I mean, this already happened with the national media and college football, but like the takes that are going to be coming out of Tuscaloosa, Alabama for the next 3 or 4 days leading up to that game are going to be insufferable.
All right. I guess we can end it right there. There's a good place to end. We'll get into our rhythm next week because being Labor Day kind of threw us off, and we're we're having producers kind of step in for us when they can. So that good for everybody? We'll be back. We'll record Wednesday and we'll be back Wednesday night.
Final Clemson Duke prediction.
I think Clemson hammers them. I like Clemson minus the 13. I think Duke was kind of not a fraud, but I think Duke benefited from an easy schedule last year, and Clemson will have 50% of that fan base tonight in the stadium. So I like Clemson to win.
I like Clemson to win. I think Duke covers the number. I think I'm just really high on the way that Duke played last year, and also I think it's going to take Cade Klubnik a little bit. Like I think that they could end up being a very good team. I still think Florida State wins the ACC, but week one we've seen even Jordan Travis did it last night where a little bit shaky, and he's like a top 5 quarterback. So I don't anticipate Cade Klubnik coming out and firing on all cylinders right away, but I still think they win the game.
Yeah, Cade Klubnik just starts off his magical season tonight. And
Jack loves Clemson. He loves him.
We're Clemson. I have a lot of faith in you guys, Clemson. I really do. I could, I've been made to look like an idiot multiple times, but this one would be really, if they lose tonight, it would be heartbreaking for me.
Katie, what do you think?
I think another reason for TCU, Brandon said they lost 2 things. Their third thing they lost is Garrett Riley. We're about to see the Garrett Riley experiment hopefully work. I think Clemson the points by a bajillion.
Oh, did you guys see what Deion said on the McAfee show about Kendall Briles?
What did he say?
He said Shedeur took that game more. This is just class. He's a master marketer. I'll give him so much credit for that.
He's been that for 40 years.
I know he's amazing at this. But just this was. He said Shedeur. It wasn't enough. Like if the motivation wasn't enough, just in general for that game. Kendall Briles, when he was at Florida State, when Shedeur was at camps, didn't pay any attention to Shedeur and thought he was not a D1 quarterback. So Deion said that was even more of a personal game for Shedeur, which is, I mean, he showed up Kendall Briles. I'll tell him that much. I'll tell you that much.
Hey.
All right. Let's get out.
Briles deserves anything he can get.
Let's get out of here and then we'll be back. That's unnecessary roughness.